that being said, would your belief be that you have another lifetime after this one?
For sure.
So do you think your current path right now is also going to influence, obviously, the other one, like the ones that before you?
I do, and this is where we can get real weird about it, because, like,
I'm weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. It's so, like, helpful to think about these types of, like, totally intangible things in a linear way, because we live in a linear world. Like, we think that way. We need structures and frameworks to make sense of things in the 3D, and so it's like easy. It's helpful for us to think about, like, past life, current life, future life, but I don't even actually think that that's how it plays out. Like, you think of, what's that movie, Interstellar? I feel like that's, like, as accurate as it could be, where at the end, he's in, like, the whatever other dimension, and it's like all of these things happening all at the same time in the same place, and it's there is no separation, and so I think even the idea that something happened in the past and will happen later is some influence of separation.
Whereas that was more science fiction, is your belief more spiritual based? Because, like, Interstellar was like science fiction-y, like wormholes, like time warps. It was more like, because, I mean, spoiler alert to anyone, but it was because, it's him sending the messages through the bookshelf. And that wasn't another lifetime. That was more a wormhole that he went through, right? A black hole. So do you feel like, from your perspective, it's a finite life in a certain lifetime and then another lifetime, whereas that one was like a wormhole? Is that kind of the difference?
Yeah, so I think that the like, what to me at this moment in time feels more like ultimate truth is the way that it was shown in that movie, where, like, it really is all happening at the same time. Like, he's to the daughter, for example, from her perspective, the dad, the one who's gone now, he's, like, completely gone, but from his perspective, he's absolutely right there. And so, like, that's how I see it, where, like, everything is always right now. There is no thing out there. But I think that we are also served by having limited perspectives at times, where, like, from this view, we have a finite amount of life to live, versus a more expanded view, it's like, okay, maybe it's all happening. A bigger view, it's like, oh, okay, we're all here right now. And, like, I think in the 3D, we need to have a balance of those, because we can't just be untethered and floating in the cosmos all the time, or else we wouldn't be here on Earth. And so it's like, we need to have some rigidity, I think, in our understanding, but at the same time, it feels just, everything we can perceive, I know is not the truth. You know what I'm saying? Because naturally we come with limitation.
Yeah, like, what overwhelms me, I guess, is the opposite. I wouldn't say belief. It's not like I have something invested in it. It's not like my belief or something, but like my understanding of what I'm kind of expecting. That sounds kind of grim, but it's kind of the opposite, because it's like every time I think about death, I think about it's eternal. Like, I'm not waking up one day and that's it. And the scariest thing, but also depending on whatever, is not being aware of it, not being conscious, like an eternity of unconsciousness. And eternity is forever, ever. And that's what kind of scares me. It's not that I don't believe in heaven or an afterlife. It's not that I actively don't believe in it. But what ponders the most in my mind is eternal nothingness, and just being unconscious and not knowing that it's nothingness, but never waking up. It's like it's like when you go to sleep and if you don't dream and then you wake up, it's like that little moment, but not waking up. That's what kind of overwhelms my thoughts. It's not like I believe in it. It's not like that's what I want to believe. It's just that's kind of the way I kind of sometimes look at it. It's kind of the opposite.
Interesting.
It's not that I want to.
Interesting.
It's not that I want to. It's not like I'm invested in it. It's not like I'm trying to go around and persuade people. It's just something that's on my mind, and it kind of like weighs on my chest. Like, even with my cousins, sometimes, like, I'll just talk about death and they'll be like, man, we don't want to talk about that. It's like, yeah, because I'll just be like, bro, do you know how long an eternity is? An eternity is like, I don't know, a grain of sand at the beach shore. That's a century. An eternity is like 1,000 beaches with millions of grains. It's an eternity, right? So I get overwhelmed with that, but not in the way, not like where I'm actively afraid of dying. It's just like a pressure that I feel in my chest of like eternity of just like, and that's the way that I kind of sometimes perceive it. And like I said, it's not a belief. It's not like I'm actively believing in that. I'm trying to persuade people. That's just like how it weighs on me as far as, afterlife or other lifetimes.
That is so interesting to me. I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe that in that way. And like, yeah, like trying that on in my own mind, my immediate, like, what feels like it puts that thought to rest for me is, I guess, my perspective or understanding that I would say belief. I don't believe that we can experience a lack of consciousness outside of a physical form. My understanding is that like consciousness is, period, like full sentence, consciousness is all there is. And in this human form of limitation, we experience a lack of consciousness by choice to grow through the duality of having blind spots and shadow and light and all the framework to grow through. But once the form is taken off the table and we return to that like eternal consciousness, I see it as only possible to be eternal consciousness, not a lack of it.
So do you actively think that way? Like, for example, like, is that how you kind of explain deja vu when it occurs to you? You kind of be like, oh, maybe that was a different, is that how you look at deja vu? Things like this?
Yep, totally. Even like something as simple as like, so I have a real example. I was with a client earlier in a session on Zoom, and something I'm helping this particular client with is his dating life, his dating profile. And so I had his Bumble pulled up on my computer, and we were both looking at it at the same time, like swiping through women, and kind of yes. I love doing it because it's like the man or woman, doesn't matter, like whoever's in front of me might perceive a profile one way, whereas I might see something else, and it's relevant for them to know. So we're looking through these women, and there was one profile where it's like on a desktop version, at least, maybe on the phone too, I don't know. The very first thing that pops up is just a picture. It doesn't really say anything. It says like their name, age, picture. And this woman's face popped up. And just immediately I was like, I'm going to just swipe no. And he was like, well, okay, I wasn't into her anyways, but okay, why? And like, it was too quick for him to even like be on board with yet. But as soon as I saw her face, her eyes, the energy, I was just like, no, there's a no. Like there's something, it's her density, her energy, there's something dark about it. No. That like, I don't think that is coming from fresh slate. You know what I mean? Like I believe that my ability to like interpret or even like pick up on somebody's like lightness or darkness in their energy comes from potential experience of them in a past life, or something else.
People would be like, oh, it's my gut feeling. And that's kind of like, instead of just saying gut feeling, you're adding more substance to that actual feeling, more, more history to it, more nuance. People would just be like, oh, I had a gut feeling about that. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes people will be like, oh, I was going to go down that road today, but this happened or whatever. This guy, he was a handsome guy, had whatever qualifiers I'm looking for in a partner, but just something about him, like you said, the energy is just told me, like his teeth were a little too white. They were like, it was something like, it was a little too clean, too meticulous. It wasn't authentic. And that's what happens a lot. Sometimes people are putting on a mask or a persona, if you will, for people who they feel like this is what they want to be, right? This is what they want to see. So it's cool that you said that, because it is a thought. Like, I think when people hear energy and these things, they tune out and they get, that's hippie talk. And I mean, that can be a perspective, but I think it's unfair to just throw everything out the window like that.